Many people say we are holographic, and in that way, energetically, you could change the form. It's like an atom, which is not solid.
I know.
And even this table and everything is made of atoms. And if you go closely, then nothing is solid.
I've heard of people who can walk through walls. I don't know, I can't do it, but I've heard of people, scientists who are people, very legitimately important people in government have told me, we've seen him walk through a wall. I don't know, I wasn't there, but this guy has got credentials, and he's got all the credentials of a scientist, and he said he saw somebody walk through a wall. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on in this world that you would not believe unless you saw it yourself. And then if you see it yourself, I mean really something spectacular, like a person walking through a wall or something, if you saw it yourself and you talk with that person who just walked through the wall.
Or if you saw somebody shapeshift.
Well, of course. But if you saw that yourself, then I would say, well, how do you prove that? You would say to me, I don't need to prove it. I was there. I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm just honoring you by being here to talk to you and tell you. If you don't believe me, I don't care. I know what I saw.
How about mind control?
Mind control is overwhelmingly obvious. It's everywhere. All kinds of mind control, not just the old Mickey Mouse back in the 1950s with the
MK Ultra?
Yeah, the MK Ultra, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something far, far more serious. All kinds of electrical interference with the human brain, because your mind, your brain is like a computer, and your spine is carrying an electrical force field to move your body. But our scientists have been talking ever since Nikola Tesla. Tesla talked about the human body being a computer and an electrical force field. And so if you're smart like Tesla, I'm not, but if you're smart like him, you might figure out a way to manipulate your electrical force field. Well, we now know they can do that. We now know that they can see you at night. We have cameras that can see you at night. If you're out in the jungle, they can see you moving.
Night vision?
Night vision is one thing, but there are highly technical military instruments that can see a human in a dark forest, totally black, but they can see the human. And they can see him walking. Why? Because your body is giving off an electrical field. And this camera is designed to pick up that electrical field. So in the military, if you're out at night, totally dark at night, and you're moving around, but you can see other humans. They don't know that you're seeing them, but you can see them, how many there are.
Can they also look through walls?
Absolutely, I think so. Mm-hmm. You have to understand that your particular religion is based on where you were born. If you were born in Africa, then you would have a certain concept and idea about God and the theology and religion, unless, of course, you were born in the Yukon. And now, as a Eskimo, you have your idea about God and theology and who runs the universe, unless, of course, you were born in Russia. Now you would have the Russian Orthodox idea about God, etc., unless, of course, you happen to be born in China. So the idea, the point I'm making is that whatever it is you believe is only because of where you happen to have been born. It doesn't mean you know the whole universe and know anything. It just means that's what you believe, because the people you hung around with, you were...
Indoctrination, more so than just brainwash or mind control.
I had a
compartmentalization.
I had a man on the national level in America, at the very top in America, one of the top people in this country that you would not even suspect that I know. And he told me, he said, Jordan, I'm a Jew. I was born a Jew, and so that's who I am. I'm a Jew. But I don't know if the religion's right. I don't know. That's not what I do. I do something else. I'm in government. But I was born a Jew. And so I have a feeling, an affection for God as a Jew. But that doesn't mean I know anything. I'm not sure of anything. I'm sure when I go and do my job in government, I'm sure I know what I'm doing. But when we talk about theology and religion, he said to me, I would much prefer listening to you, because that's obviously what you've been, and you're evolving in your life, all your life, is theology and religion. Mm-hmm. So I would much rather listen to you. And I said, well, thank you. And I said, but I know a lot about government and the laws of government. But if we're going to talk about government and a leader's circle, I'd rather you do the talking, not me, because that's your field. And theology, religion is my field, and I respect your field. So he said to me, well, good, now we got a good relationship. You stay out of my business, I'll stay out of your business. He said, but if I want to know something about God, I would call you and talk with you. If you need to know something about government, call me, I'll know.
And did he know something about mind control?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And
what did he say?
Well, his position in government was so high up that I'm not about to tell you who he was. No. But he was well aware of how the technology works to control. And here's one thing you need to know about mind control, is that when we talk about magic, magic to most people is the magician doing his magical stuff with the cards and all that. That's not magic. That's not, in fact, magic. That's sleight of hand. That's being crafty and clever.
Right.
But that's not magic. Magic as a real thing is very, very powerful, otherworldly demonism, devil worship kind of thing.
Satanism.
Yeah.
The occult.
Yeah, the occult. It's dealing with powers from the universe that you don't have, but you make a deal with them, and they will do for you what you need done, and then you do for them what they need done.
Is that what some people refer to as the archons?
Yeah, and a lot of motion picture and entertainment people will tell you they made a deal with the devil. And lots and lots of important people have said that publicly. We made a deal with the devil.
Because they took part in satanic rituals.
Yes, taking part. I could tell you things which are going on in Hollywood right now, but let me tell you something. Understand this. In Europe, before the Roman Empire existed, before Rome, Europe was already dominated by a culture of people. And then Rome came along and overtook it. But there was already a very powerful culture of people in North, East, West, and Southern Europe. And this is where we get our word news: North, East, West, and South, NEWS. And so anything that happens in the North, East, West, or South is news. No, it's the letters make the word news. But there was already a highly developed culture of people living in Europe, and they were called Druids. And today, there's still a very powerful culture in Europe and America. America's almost pure Druid. Today, America is a Druid country. Well, so is Europe. Europe is very Druidic. And the ancient symbols and words and terms, etc., that they use in Europe, they don't realize those are Druid words and terms. Well, one of the most important symbols that the ancient Druids in Europe used, and the Druids were always the lawyers, the doctors, the priests, anything that was important to be, it was a Druid. Druids were very powerful and very intelligent people. But the most important symbol that the Druids had for their magical, to show that they were magical priests, was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician from England. Merlin the magician with a magic wand. Orchestra leaders and conductors around the world use a magic wand. So you play to their music, not yours. I'll tell you when to do this and when to do that. And so the magic wands were always a symbol of Druidic magic, real magic. But magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. Get it? And so today, we Americans are orchestrating magic around the world in Hollywood because it's a Druid symbol. And if you bother to go to the encyclopedias or go on the web and look and put into the web pictures, just images, not the regular web, but just on images, and type in Jesus with magic wand, you will see all over Europe and around the world the Old Testament and New Testament people, the 12 apostles, Jesus, Abraham, all the names in the Bible are all doing their miracles with a magic wand. There's all kinds of pictures of Jesus with a magic wand raising the dead and feeding the poor. And the magic wands are made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. And so what I'm saying to you is that Hollywood is a very legitimately de jure and real magical system. And because of that, you have to do rituals, blood rituals, human sacrifice. There's a very powerful, real, legitimate, not of this world magic. And those people who are running Hollywood are connected to things you don't know anything about. And they have the power now to manipulate the world with motion pictures and television.
Who's orchestrating that in Hollywood?
All of that is being orchestrated out of Hollywood, but it's not because these people are so clever and resourceful and talented. No, they are connected to a power that is not of this world. They're connected to something going on that you would understand as demonism or devil worship or spirit worship.
So actors and singers take part in that?
Oh, of course they do. Absolutely. Did you see the movie Eyes Wide Shut?
Yes.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick died shortly after that movie was made. That's
What do you know about Eyes Wide Shut and Stanley Kubrick?
Well, I just know that, first of all, that big party, that was a satanic mass of some sort, so some sort of a satanic thing. I'm not talking about my influence on you or my influence because I'm a wealthy man and I'm influencing you. No. What's Hollywood is an influence you don't even know is happening. It's not of this world. It causes people to commit suicide. It can cause you to kill someone. Some kind of a other world connection to the human mind and to the human world that we live in is controlling you. If you're involved in Hollywood and you're involved in the motion picture business or in international banking or in the oil industry, the guys at the top who cause things to happen, they're all being manipulated by spirit forces. The Illuminati are humans that are being manipulated by spirit forces. We all, at the lowest level, all the way up to the Illuminati guys at the top, we're all human. And yet, some of us have magnificent powers to do things. We come into the world as a Rockefeller, and we're changing society. But what you don't know is that the human race is being manipulated by a higher power that you can't see.
But can we put a name to that higher power?
Well, I call it the spirit world.
Is that the archons?
Yeah, the archons. Yeah.
And the Muslims call them the jinn.
Yeah, that's exactly right, the jinns. And the Christians call them demons and devils. The Jews call them a different name.
So they are spirit beings.
Yes, they're spirit beings. And they're
not physical.
Not physical. They're spirit beings. They can work through reptilians.
And some reptilians and other alien species are physical and some are non-physical.
That's exactly right. But you need to understand that there is all over the earth a domination of the human family, of humans, by extraterrestrial or other world entities that you can't see. All the world of religion believes that there are spirits out there. God is out there and the angels are out there. That's who actually, in point of fact, runs Hollywood, are those spiritual entities. They are using Hollywood to manipulate us, to manipulate the human race. We put out movies that cause the riots. We put out movies that promote the one group against the other group. That is the mind control.
The collective mind control.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very, very real. very, very powerful and really scary. Because if you hear that they're sacrificing a child tonight, and you know there's human sacrifice in California, in Los Angeles. There's human sacrifice.
Have you heard that that is actually real?
Oh, God, yeah, of course. There's human sacrifice goes on continually in Hollywood. It's human sacrifice. Children are being sacrificed.
Why?
It's simple. It's very simple. Because if they are going to help you, they can help you. These spirits have powers and know knowledge and powers and technology you don't know anything about. And they can do things that would just scare you. And you think it's just, God couldn't do this. No, it's not God. It's an extraterrestrial, and he's been around 400 million years, and you haven't. So he knows a lot more about the universe and magic than you do. And so he can come here and look like God to you. I mean, and so if he gives me, if I make a deal with him, I'll give him my body and my life and my soul if you will give to me what I want. I want to be able to do what you do. I want to dazzle people with.
But why would you need to sacrifice another human or a child to gain that knowledge?
That's because it's always been that way in religion. Anytime you go to a God in any religion and ask for something that he would give you, he wants something back. And so it's always been that way. Why do all the races of the world have gods that they sacrifice to? With that, he's also now, it's like the mafia. It's like underworld organization. You need something bad. You need $1 million bad because your family is going to die. And you go to some big shot in the mob world, and he says, okay, how much you need? I need 500,000 bad. So he said, okay, here's the 500,000. Okay, I give it to you. You wanted that? I give it to you. Now you owe me. You owe me. And when I call you for whatever I call you, you better be here. Because you came to me, I didn't come to you. You came to me and asked for something, I gave it to you. Now you owe me. And you take that lightly, you better think about it. Because you
better you say no to the 35,000.
You don't ever say no to the guy who's the boss.
But a lot of actors can become huge stars without being involved in all of that.
Of course, yeah. But I think that even the stars who are not actually taking part in these rituals they are aware. They are aware that when they're told something, you better listen. You know, I don't think the Robert De Niro's are just carefree and do whatever they want, no.
But now there just came out a lot of revelations about Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, that didn't faze me at all. It was almost silly. You think that's bad? I can tell you some stories that will turn your hair.
Well, why do you think that became such a world phenomenon?
I think somebody is trying to unravel that demonic pit back there and do something about cleaning it up or do something about getting rid of it. Somebody on this earth is very powerful. And I think they are tired of all the crap that's going on in Hollywood with the sex and drugs and rituals.
But it's women being
abused
by
him. But you know as well as I do that that's not even half the story.
So is it a feminist agenda?
It's a sexual agenda. It has to do with sex for the sake of sex itself. What sex actually is. And so when you understand sex, what it actually is there's a magical, electrical and magical connection to sex. Yeah, and so that's what the ejaculation of the man feels, is this overwhelming sense of spirituality. Well, that's what we're talking about, this overwhelming presence of spirituality within the human mind and the human body, the male energy, because it's impregnating the female. And so therefore in any marriage or any sexual act, it's the man, and so the male is manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And the woman is receiving from the man what he's manufacturing, mm-hmm. and she is in labor, producing the product.
So are they
she's in
trying
labor.
to separate the sexes in a mind control kind of way?
Yeah, yeah.
Why? Because of
Well,
depopulation plan, or
Well, because it can be used to wipe out your memory of who you are, and wipe out your memory of who you are, what you've done. There's all kinds of reasons that I can give you for mind control, and you know as well as I do that there's all kinds of reasons for it. I mean, there's organizations like the mafia would like to have mind control over people that they rob and rape and plunder. Governments would like to have mind control so they don't have to deal with all the goofballs out in the street throwing rocks, and that they can control the masses with narcotics, with dope, with a movie, sex, drugs, alcohol, whatever. Give them whatever they want and get them out of here. You know,
to pacify them,
pacify them. Yeah.
to not think in a spiritual way.
Right. But what we have known for many, many years, I knew this back in the 50s, that sex is a tool that can be used, that Wilhelm Reich talked about the sexual energy and how it can be used to control humans. It can be used to control women and men, but it's a very ancient, arcane science. But if you understand what sex is, it can be used in motion pictures, in music, in colors, and sound, and to control people's thinking. So I'm just saying, I'm not an expert on this subject, but I know enough about it to know.
That's why the porn industry is so successful.
That's exactly right. Because the guys that run this planet know that sex is a seller. You know, that's why everything you buy in America has got sex connected to it. Yeah.
What happens to us when we die?
Yeah, that's a good question. No doubt about it. And I have to honestly say that I don't know. But I'm tending to think that there is something to reincarnation, because all the major religions of the world teach a reincarnation. And it makes sense to me if you are a spirit and living in a human body, a physical body. So the question I asked a long time ago, what are we? Are we a human body that's the home of a spirit living in it? Or were we a spirit to begin with who came into this world and took on a human body? So what are you really? Are you a spirit or are you a physical body? And so now I know. I mean, logic alone tells me that you're a physical body. But I've heard lectures by scientists and doctors who explain what does the brain do? The brain is not what you think it is. If you put a table with 50 brains taken from 50 different people and you just put the brains on the table, you're not going to be able to tell anybody from anybody, because all the brains look the same. You don't even know the difference between male and female. They all look the same.
So it's all in the soul. It's all in the spirit.
That's right.
Personality.
That's right. Personality is in the spirit world. And the scientist I heard explaining this was a lady scientist, and it was very interesting. She said the question was, what does the brain actually do? And she said, we now know that the brain does only one thing only. It creates and allows for movement. It controls the movement of the brain, the movement of the hands, all of your body functions, where you go, what you're doing. The brain is controlling that. But she said, but where does your creativity, your spiritual self, where does that come from? Your imagination that dreams at night, where does that come from? And she said, we know positively it does not come from the brain. It does not. The brain is physical for the physical body. But you and your spiritual self and who you are and what you think is funny and what you think is evil and what you see and what you believe, that's not in your brain. So if you take the human bodies, male bodies, but cut the heads off and you got 50 male bodies there, you'll never know who that body belonged to. And if you take those 50 heads and take the brain out, you'll never know who those brains belong to.
But they all had different personalities.
Of course, but they all had different personalities. Why? Because they don't have nothing to do with the body or the brain. They had a personality, which is the word person. And therefore your persona, and when you came into your body, when you were born, you have a persona, and therefore we call it a person. And so you are who you are, but we don't know where you get your ideas.
So let's, of course, assume that we have a soul.
I totally believe that, yes.
Yes. So people who've had near-death experiences
Right.
and who's had out-of-body experiences and even through...
I've had them. Yeah.
Right, and even who's been in deep meditation and other things.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
especially people who've been dead. They've been through this tunnel of light with colors. They went to this white light dimension, which a lot of religions refer to as heaven.
Yep.
They saw people that had gone before them, family members, and they saw a Jesus figure if they were Christian, or Muhammad, or whatever is the faith that they believe in. They see something called the life review. They see everything that they did in their lives.
Yep.
And then they are asked if they want to correct something or go back in another body with a wiped memory.
Yeah.
So that's reincarnation.
The phenomena that we call reincarnation is true. There's no doubt about that. But it's very tricky because we know that there have been many, many hundreds of cases where people, kids, young children, would tell you that they were here 1,000 years ago and that they saw this king do this, and they saw this, they saw that, and they give you, and they tell you exactly where things were and all of that.
Memory.
And then, yeah, from a memory. And then you find out later on they were right. They went and dug it up and found what they said those kids said was there. And so that obviously they were there. No, that's not obvious that they were there. There may be a soul memory, but it doesn't mean that they were there at all. There may be spirit entities, we call angels, jinns, whatever you want to call these other world entities. And maybe these spirits, what we call angels, maybe they were there 500 years ago, and they saw everything going on. And so today we can take a tape recorder or a digital camera and videotape somebody's voice and hear everything they're saying, and forever. You've got them, and when they die, 20 years later, you can still show, and it looks like them talking. It was them. You recorded it. So I'm saying that maybe when we are talking to people who have these wonderful ancient things that have happened to them, no, it didn't happen to you. It happened to one of those archons. It happened to one of those spiritual entities that we call demons, angels, devils, whatever they are, whatever these spirits are, and they are putting that into your mind.
Like another form of mind control.
Precisely. And so here you can sit here and talk about all these wonderful experiences you had in Egypt. You were never in Egypt. They were.
So people who've had near-death experiences, atheists, people who do not believe in any kind of religion or anything, and they don't know each other, a lot of them, most of the accounts, they say the same thing. With the tunnel and the white light frequency, is that a real dimension, or is it an illusionary dimension? Some people are beginning to suggest that that dimension has been created in a holographic way, the same as maybe we are in a sophisticated way here on Earth.
A very, very powerful man that I knew, who was a dear friend of mine, okay? And I'm talking about top of the line in this country.
Right.
Very powerful man. He told me that he had died. He said, I'll tell you, Jordan, experience I had about 5 years ago. This was back in the 90s. He said, I died. I was on the operating table, and I died. And he said, and when I died, I felt myself come out of my body. And I felt just fine. And I could hear everybody. I could see what they're doing. I'm watching everything, and everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off because my flat line, and everybody's trying to save me. I don't need to be saved. I feel fine. I'm just watching all you people running around. And he said, all of a sudden, he told me, all of a sudden, I felt myself going backwards into a vortex. And I had no control over it. It was sucking me into a vortex. And he said, I went down a long tube, and I could see a light, and as I was going, there was all kinds of colors as I was spinning around in this tube. This is what this old man told me. And he said that when I came out, there was an angel that met me. When I came out of the tube, an angel met me and said, turn around, you go back. You're not supposed to be here. Turn around and go back. And he said, why? And he said, because one of ours is down there, and you have to go help him. So turn around, you got a job to do. And he said, I felt without any, I didn't do it. It was automatic. I just got sucked back into the vortex, and I went back down through until I came back into the operating room. And he says, I came back as I started going into my body, consciously. I came back and I was looking around, and I saw everybody running around. And then when I felt myself go back into my body, everybody started running around because now my vital signs are coming back. I'm coming back into my body.
That's very similar to what a lot of people have said that they experienced.
And so he said, so I'm telling you, I did that. And that I went through the tunnel and saw the angel, and he told me to come back.
So he believes in that is the end goal, to go to the white light, because he saw the angel.
Well,
but is it to be in that karma wheel all the time? We won't get out of the matrix.
Yeah, I understand.
If we can consciously go back again to the body, or we can consciously go to somewhere else, can we choose not to go into that if it is a constructed deception?
But you see, I'm not in a position to answer that because I don't know. I have gone out of my body, and I have way too many friends around the world that have told me about their experience of going out of their body and going through tubes and seeing the light.
Very similarly.
And I've also talked to people who say, don't go to the light because they're just going to package you and you go back into the system again. And so and so I asked them, well, if I don't go into the light, where would I go?
Because if these spirits that you talk about, if they can deceive us here, why wouldn't they be able to do that just in a dimension just a little bit above that?
Obviously, of course.
What we have to really find out is where to go consciously when we leave the body.
Wherever it is you go, you need to keep in mind that whoever is in charge of you going anywhere, they're in charge, not you.
But do you think that our consciousness can be controlled?
But if you were a spirit in a physical body, and that another spirit world was contacting you and telling you to go out and do these things, it's not contacting your physical body, it's contacting your spirit. And your spirit is now being talked to by a higher spirit. Well, when you die and your spirit leaves your body, so it's no big deal. They talk to your spirit all the time.
Unless you're becoming conscious about it now.
Yes, but
what is happening?
Yeah.
So what do you think, finally here, to wrap up, what do you think is the most important thing for people to do when they hear all of these things? Some people may hear them for the first time.
Yeah.
And all of the stuff that you're talking about and that we discussed today. I mean, there should be some hope there. There should be something positive to come out of all of this. What is your message to people? What do you think people should do?
First of all, your mind is like a parachute. Your mind is like a parachute. It don't work if it's not open. First. Second of all, I have people who tell me, well, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I say, yes, it's a train coming. Well, so don't tell me, oh, everything's going to be just fine. No, it's not going to be just fine. The whole world, as one astronomer said, the universe is not stranger than you imagine. It's stranger than you can imagine. There are things going on out there you have no idea in the world what's going on.
But if we suspect that that is true, what is the best thing or the most positive thing that we can do when learning about these things?
I think the scripture says, know the truth and the truth will set you free. I think that is a very important point that needs to be made. Open your mind. The world is not what you think it is. I can guarantee you, nothing on this earth works the way you think it does. There's an old term that the world works on smoke and mirrors. Well, when I was a kid, I used to think, what are you talking about, smoke and mirrors? I mean, if you walk out in front of a bus and you get run over, that wasn't smoke and mirrors, that's real. So what are you talking about the world works on smoke and mirrors? Well, now I understand the term. It means deception. Words and terms and ideas that are told to you when you were growing up, that's not true, but they're deception. And so the world you come up into and grow into is filled with smoke and mirrors, symbolically meaning when you look at something, no, you're looking at yourself as a mirror. And then you look over here to an attorney or an expert to tell you this, and he's telling you something else, a bunch of smoke.
What is the best thing we can do? Even when we say the truth will set us free,
well,
which is right.
Yeah.
But how can we go on from there?
The first thing is first. You need to, for the first time in your life, understand completely what humility means. Because if you're arrogant and you know everything there is to know about everything and you don't need to hear all this other nonsensical stuff, talk audibly to the Great Spirit. I do believe in God. I do believe there is a spirit in the universe.
Which is good?
Yes, which is good. It's not good. It is just what it is. God says through the prophet Isaiah, I create good, I create evil. I create life, I create death. I create wars and violence, I create peace. I create it all. I'm God and I can do whatever I want to.
So is there any hope for the human race and for our spirits?
I tend to think that the history of the human race has taught us that there's not any hope for the whole human race. But for those who want more, more will be added. Those who want to know will begin to learn things they're supposed to know. Certain people will learn what they want to know. It will be given to them. As I have what is called faith. But faith is not what Christians think it is. Whatever's supposed to happen, it will. Whatever you're supposed to learn, you will. If you're not supposed to, you won't. So I'm just saying that the world is far, far different than what you think it is. And not like that astronomer said, the universe is not only stranger than you imagine, it's stranger than you can imagine.
There is a world of topics and subjects and things that we could talk about for hours. There are so many things. It's so complicated. It's very complex. It's very fascinating. It's wild, shocking, and everything.
Yeah.
For now, unfortunately, we do not have more time. But I want to thank you very much, Jordan Maxwell, for doing this interview with Age of Truth
Well, I
TV.
was honored that you would think enough of me to ask me to do it. And I thank you.
I thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.